The pandemic gave us all the opportunity to hit pause and obviously reassess so much of our lives.
Yeah, and no one knows that better than our next guest. Emmy award-winning journalist and author of Called Out: Why I Traded Two Dream Jobs for a Life of True Calling, Paula Faris. And Paula joins us now this morning, not only to tell us how she did it, but to help walk us through how we can do it too. Good morning, Paula. So nice to see you.
Morning.
Oh, it's so good to see both of your smiling faces on this Thursday morning. And hi, everyone back in New York. I'm in a small town in South Carolina now. Like a lot of people kind of blew up my life during the pandemic.
Well, we miss you here, that's for sure. And for those who aren't familiar, which I don't know why they wouldn't be, because we've seen you for so many years on ABC. You left in 2020 and moved from the bright lights of New York City to that rural town that you talked about in South Carolina. So, you know, I got to ask you, Paula, how did that perspective shift through this change? Because that's a tough turn or pivot, if you will, to make.
It's a 180. It's been a complete 180. My daughter likes to say, she's 13, and she said, we didn't just move to a small town. We moved to a very small town, less than 3,000 people. We ended up down here during the pandemic. My sister lives in South Carolina, so that's initially why we decided to come down here and stay. And you know, Betty and Dan, we got down here. We thought we'd be here for a couple of weeks. This was last March, and we just had this peace in our spirit, this guttural instinct that we were supposed to stay, and we weren't exactly sure why. You know, my job was in New York. I did know that it was ending. I knew that I was going to be leaving ABC at the end of the year. My husband still runs a commercial real estate firm in New York City, but it just comes down to that peace in our spirit. We were supposed to just stay. It has been a complete 180, and I think sometimes we're pushed onto paths that can be a little painful. We think it's going to be all roses. There can be pain points, and there's struggle along with the strength. So, but we're grateful that we're here. It's not what we necessarily wanted, but it's in hindsight the path that we absolutely needed to be on.
Right. So how do you get to exactly what you're talking about, right? Because in your book, you're very candid that there were struggles along the way, that you had to decide, okay, I'm actually going to walk away from my career. But I guess there's a breaking point too, and a mind shift that you have to make where it comes to that acceptance. How did you get there?
Right. Well, look, not everybody is called to blow up their life and walk away, right? I think sometimes you get to a point where, like, I knew I was burnt out. I knew that my values were not lining up with the choices that I was making professionally and personally. And so, you know, you get to the top, you get to this quote unquote pinnacle of your career, and you look around and you know that adage, what good is it for a man or a woman to gain the world but to lose their soul in the process? And I really felt like that's what had happened. Yes, to reach this summit was incredible and the experiences, but I looked around and my health was suffering. I wasn't spending time with my husband and kids. Those values were clashing with the choices that I was making. And I just really felt that I was supposed to pump the brakes. And then ultimately, I completely left ABC last year. So some of the change was chosen, to be honest, back in 2018 when I pumped the brakes. Last year, it wasn't necessarily chosen. ABC didn't renew my contract, and that was really painful at first. But excuse me, again, it put us on this path, you guys, that we needed to be on, not one that we necessarily wanted to be on. And in hindsight, everything, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And we've landed, and it's been a really special time for our family.
And I love how you've turned it around too, because your honesty and the fact that, you know, like, this is something that you didn't want to happen to some extent, although you needed it for it to happen. But to get through that painful portion of, because I imagine there were nights that you woke up, there was anxiety about this next turn in your life, right? I know that you are a faith-driven woman. Was that a key to getting through this?
I think absolutely. You know, I'm a big believer in following that peace in my spirit, whatever that peace may be in your spirit. If it's just that gut instinct, we really felt that this is what we were supposed to do. And I think, you know, change is so normal. We need to normalize change, and fear is normal. Failure is normal. So it's not like you can experience, I say, you can have a peace that you're supposed to do something and you can still be scared as hell and expect and anticipate fear to creep up. And so often we're like, I'm scared to do that. So you know what? I think that's my intuition calling me off. But I say, if you have a true peace in your spirit, expect and anticipate fear. Fear is going to try to paralyze us throughout our life. But if you follow that peace, proceed. If you don't have a peace about it, then pause. But change is normal, fear is normal, failure is normal. Michael Jordan said the key to success is failure.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a journey, you guys. It's a journey. And I think just giving yourself a lot of grace and realizing that you're going to have those mixed emotions. I can have great joy for the last chapter of my life, which was a wonderful chapter in New York and ABC, filled with a little bit of sorrow. Like those emotions can coexist. I wasn't able to go back and clean out my office because of the pandemic. I didn't go back to say goodbye to my colleagues whom I love, and my friends. I wasn't able to even go back and pack up my house. I'm still looking for things. I'm like, honey, my husband actually went back to pack up the house, and I'm like, all right, I got to give him some grace because he had to do that all on his own.
Yeah.
But, no closure, yet very happy for the chapter that we're in now. So just those emotions can coexist. You can have sadness and happiness at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's a statement in itself for people to realize that you can have both, right? And my friends always tell me to remind myself to trust the timing of your life, because like you said, everything happens for a reason, but trusting the timing is a big, big chunk of that. So then you come out and you write this book. During it all, what are you hoping that people gain from the book?
Well, look, we just released the paperback, which is actually why I'm on with you guys today. We released the hardcover. Releasing a book during the pandemic is a bit of a struggle, but we just released the paperback, and it has a 6-week discussion guide, because I continued to hear from readers from the hardcover that they wanted a companion guide to kind of take it to the next level, because the book is memoir, but it's also kind of it's a little bit of a study guide in and of itself. So I decided to include a 6-week discussion guide, so you can go through it individually or with groups, book clubs, and help you work through these tenets of purpose and calling and fear and change. And, I'm a firm believer, you guys, you don't have to do one thing for the rest of your life. Like Simone Biles is struggling with, fear right now. And she's so much more than what she does. We are so much more than what we do for a living. Our value isn't just our vocation or that one thing that we have placed our significance in. We are multifaceted, just like we're mind, body, spirit. I'm on a different, I'm in a new season of vocational calling where I'm staying home with my kids. I launched a podcast. I'm launching a company later this year, which I don't feel equipped to do. I'm not a business person or an entrepreneur, but it's given me permission to see life as different chapters, vocation as different chapters. We take the gifts and talents that we have and pour those into new opportunities.
And with that fear comes the excitement of these new things, right? Because that's what launches you into this next part of your journey. I want to bring in the gang, because there are members that you know very well, including Ben Aaron.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
Great. I love what you're saying.
Ben and I know each other because Ginger, his wife, and I have known each other for 15 years. We worked together in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I've known your wife longer than you have.
I know. And she reminds me of it many, many times over again. No, I think what I think you're saying is profound, and I think you talk about the fear a great deal, and people aspire to pivot, but they also are like, what if I'm not completely, what if all the things I want, the satisfaction, being with my kids more, sleeping better, it doesn't happen, and I was happier in my former life. So do you ever have moments of like, God, because I always thought you were great on TV because you kept it real. And a lot of people are phonies on TV. Do you ever get those moments of like, kind of miss being on TV?
I miss it.
Yeah.
I do. Well, I think, work had become essentially my narcotic of choice. And I write about that in the book where, and look, I think you can absolutely love what you do, but are you defined by it? Would you know who you are if you had to walk away from it? And, I don't know, there are moments where I'm like, gosh, I had a really cool job. I had some great opportunities. But that, again, is when, Dan and Betty and I were talking about those emotions can coexist. You can have sorrow that it's gone. You can be expectant for the future, and you can be grateful for that previous chapter. Those emotions can all coexist. And one thing you mentioned, fear, that's really helped me is just normalizing it, knowing that it's going to be there, right? But also I ask myself this question: what's the best thing that can happen if I press into this? If I go for something that's a little scary, instead of asking myself the worst thing because I'm so scared of failure, what's the best thing that can happen? And I try to take my mind to a positive place. And what's the best thing that's going to happen if I press into this? If we move to South Carolina, a small city, and kind of blow up our lives, and we're experiencing the best thing right now.
Right. So instead of if I fail, it's but what if you don't?
Exactly. Right. And people often say, well, what's the worst thing? I'm like, don't think about the worst thing, because for me, that's enough to scare me off from going for it, And also, you guys, we paralyze ourselves when we don't go for something because we talk ourselves out of it.
Right.
Maybe I'm not financially stable enough, that I'm not in a financially stable position to do this, to make a pivot. And I think it comes down to boundaries, and it also just comes down to giving yourself grace. You're on a journey. You have different chapters in life. Some chapters you wish you could blow up and rip out of the book, and other chapters are going to be great. And that's just life. You learn more from your successes, or I'm sorry, you learn more from your failures. At least I have, and my flaws than my successes. Yeah. So give yourself grace and, go for it. What's the best thing that can happen? Yeah. You do.
Well, I can't wait to read this book now.
Oh, you know what, Betty, I want to invite you to, maybe you can come on. So it has a 6-week discussion guide, but I'm actually hosting a Called Out Book Club September 1st to
on my birthday.
6th. It's
all right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's free. It's on Instagram every Wednesday for 6 weeks. I'm going to be hosting it. I'll have guests, and we're going to go through the book together. I write it out of struggle, not strength.
Yeah.
So we're all just trying to find our footing together.
I'm there. All right.
Paula, thank you so much. By the way, John Muller says hello. He just used to
hi,
work
Johnny.
with John during the overnight shift.
Oh,
He's
my
upstairs
God.
watching very closely.
Oh, he is. Tell Johnny I say hi.
Johnny. We're going to call him Johnny now.
Johnny boy.
Johnny from now on.
Johnny. All right. Hey, Paula, thank you so much.
Paula.
Good to see you,
Thanks,
Paula.
guys. We'll see you later. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, there's her book Called Out. It's the paperback now out.